Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind for being a part of the show. Oh boy, this was a race to get all these things put together, but we finally got the show put together. I'm still writing it up to put it out elsewhere, but oh man, it's been a crazy day. I accidentally sent out two newsletters at the same time to the same people, one from Medium, one from Substack. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, it's crazy, guys. It's crazy. Just trying to get all this stuff out. It's crazy. But you know what? I'm with my peeps right now, which makes me happy. Anyway, welcome aboard Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Texas, Lee Grant from Montgomery County. We also have E2247 from all over the place here. We also have Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. We also have in the house Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. We also have Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, there is AVQ. I thought I saw AVQ in the house. Maybe that was wishful thinking. I know what. The purple got to me. Where the hell is AVQ? He normally is here by now. So where did he disappear to? Not here in the house yet. You are late, Mr. Rudnin. You are late, Mr. Rudnin. Anyway, May Wood from Long Beach, California is here as well. Let me scroll up again to see if I'm Lee Grant from Montgomery County. I think I called you out already. Let's see if I find anybody else in the house. All right. Don't see anybody else. Let's see. From E2247, these are Gaza only stats and do not include occupied Palestinian territories, West Bank and East Jerusalem. This pretty much normalized. Day 326 of war equal 40,476 Gazan killed, 579 persons more than 311. At least 93,647 wounded, 1,495 persons more than day 311. Total casualties, 134,123. 134,123 is equal to 411 per day, which breaks down to an estimated 23, which per day of an estimated 2.3 million people is about 5% of the Gaza population killed. Wow. 124 per day killed, and 79% are kids and women. Were U.S. to be in a situation of Gaza now, 10.7 months into genocide by Israel, U.S. has proportionally killed and injured total of 19,652,014 American. That's 5% of the U.S. population as we know it today. Those comparisons are yeah. It is. You see, we have yet, and I mean this. I mean this as respectful as possible. But as a country, we have never, as a country, respected the humanity of the other. No matter what we say, when the other is being useful, when the other is, passive, when the other is doing as we are told to do, it's okay. But when the other chooses to do something else, the humanity of the other is completely disregarded. I'm not only saying this about the Gazans in Palestine, because yes, their humanity is ignored. The fact that we can say we're working toward, we can work it, we're trying to get Netanyahu to stop killing people. We're trying. Biden is saying we're trying, we're talking, we're trying to negotiate as the killing continues. And as we are providing the bombs to maintain the killing, Kamala cannot buck the system. She just does not have. We have to understand this. The presidency and the American system has its own gravity, and that gravity has to change from within. That humanity has to be brought out first. But again, there's nothing new about this. Why would we care about indirect killing? Why would we make indirect killing a priority? In other words, Netanyahu doing the killing, we're providing the bombs, we're making money in the process. When we know personally from experience what we do. When, and I repeat this ad nauseum, but I will again because this still hurts me to the core. When Manuel Antonio Noriega, the dictator of Panama, decided he was going to become a capitalist and he was going to provide the necessary services to the American people who loved their drugs. So he facilitated the movement of drugs into America, just like America facilitate the movement of a lot of things around the world, arms around the world, etc. We facilitate the movement of arms into areas where arms shouldn't be, but nobody's going to come and bomb the smithereens out of us. So for that one man, that one person, and the gravity of this never escapes me, that one person, Bush number one, came into Panama with the C-130s, the stealth fighter. They tested the stealth fighter on the 15 pesos in Colon, where I'm from. We came in and we annihilated Chorrillo. That is where the Cuartel Nacional, the headquarters of the Panamanian Defense Forces are. Around, and that is in the center of tenements and a lot of thousands of people. We don't even know all the people that live there. Thousands of people live there. They just indiscriminately bombed it. Rockets, C-130, just opening it up, destroy the cuartel, kill thousands of people right there. They jumped over to Colon. My father is in this house, running around the house like a cat as missiles are flying over Arcoiris, Rainbow City, where I'm from, into the cuartel in Colon. And now the thousands of people are dying because we want to neutralize the defense forces as we go in to get one man, Manuel Antonio Noriega, one man. Several thousand Panamanians died. And it didn't stop on the day of the beginning of the war or the second day or whatever. As they occupied Colon and Panama City, etc., and restricted the movement of people, there was a language barrier. And my father, as counted, told me about having people who are trying to get from this little town to another town on the one street that could get you there. Not understanding the cops, their hands up in the air. Señor, estoy tratando de dar la medicina a mi esposa. I am trying to get the medicine to my wife, que tiene diabetes. She has diabetes. I'm trying to get her this insulin. In Spanish, the guy doesn't understand and he's trying to walk up. Señor, estoy tratando de. Bam, gunned down, killed, murdered by the American soldier. Again, the humanity of others don't matter. And it wasn't a war. This wasn't a war. This was a police action. They went into a foreign country to arrest the head of that country because they were facilitating drugs into America. The humanity of others doesn't matter when we have an ulterior goal. We will do whatever it takes to get to that goal. So for us to get Manuel Antonio Noriega, it meant destroying the defense forces of Panama and blowing up anything that needed to be blown up to get that guy. How different is that from what's going on in Israel, in Gaza right now? It's our modus operandi as well. That's what we do. So how do we think? Unless we have a change in mindset that we are going to take what's happening in Gaza with any degree of urgency. You know, we only talk about the sanctity of life when it comes to Americans. That's the only sanctity of no. Let me clarify that. We only talk about the sanctity of life for some Americans. Let's not fool ourselves here. We only speak about the sanctity of life for some Americans. So E2247, I feel your pain. I thank you for bringing that message every day. I think we should see that message every day, and we should instantiate that and understand that until we change deep on the inside, nothing changes until we change, because our government is doing exactly what it has done before, and what we have told our government it is okay to do. The same thing Israel is doing, Netanyahu specifically, is what we do. All right, let's see what else we got here. Did Gaza vote in Hamas? I'm not going to even discuss that. That is Paul Fleming, 6 Republicans who are. Wait a minute. Actually, I want to attack that message. Did Gaza vote in Hamas several years ago? But then nothing happened. But did we vote in Trump? Yeah, we did. We voted in Trump, a traitor, a criminal, a thug, and a treasonous person. We voted him in. Now, what happens if somebody comes out here and pay us back? There's something called collective punishment. Let me tell you a little bit of international law, since you probably don't know it. You know, many on the right refuse to educate themselves. Collective punishment is a war crime. We as Americans, when we invaded Panama, we committed war crimes. When Israel under the IDF with Netanyahu leading went ahead and killed those people in Gaza, their war crimes were no different than the war crimes committed by Hamas. No difference. No different than that. So yeah. And if you want us to get collective punishment, then remember, we also elected Bush Sr. We also elected Bush Jr. We also elected every president that have gone over the world and committed crimes against humanity, which generally speaking, it's most of our presidents except for Carter. Be careful, because that's who we are. let's say from our girl Bridge MCP. Hamas in its early days, according to former Israeli officials, was seen by the government of Israel as a counterweight to the PLO. Israel supported Hamas as a way to break the PLO's hold on the region. Retired official Avner Cohen, who worked in Gaza in the 1990s and oversaw religious affairs in the region, told the WSJ in 2009, Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's creation. That report continued. The Israeli government officially recognized a precursor to Hamas called Majuma al-Islamiyah, registering the group as a charity. It allowed Mujami members to set up an Islamic university and build mosques, clubs, and schools. Crucially, Israel often stood aside when the Islamists and their secular left-wing Palestinian rivals battled, sometimes vehemently, for influence in both Gaza and the West Bank. Israeli officials, however, disagree that they should be blamed for Hamas' growth. Instead, they argue outsiders like Iran helped the military group ascend. Iran, as of this writing, continued to be a major backer of the organization. In the 2006 election, Ismail Haniyeh led Hamas as the head of Hamas parliamentary bloc, while the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, led Fatah, as well as the PLO and the Palestinian National Authority. Haniyeh is now chairman of Hamas political bureau, and Abbas remains in his position as of this writing. With Haniyeh at the helm, Hamas won about 44% of the vote across the region, according to 2006 ABC News report, a total that secured a majority of seats in the legislature under election rules. The election, which was reported to be free and fair, according to the National Democratic Institute, used plurality voting, which is an electoral system in which candidates win by securing more votes than any other opponent, regardless of whether the total is a majority share of the votes. It's just like the United States as well. Additionally, the election used proportional representation as an electoral system that allocates seats in proportion to votes, according to the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you for that, Bridge MCP. You know, I mean, a little bit of education is always a good thing. Let's see what else we got here. Right. I don't know international law. Okay, good. All right, let's start with our first video. Our first video is from Mark Sutton, how progressives can, I think it's a one on progressive. Let's go ahead and get that started, and we'll take it on the other side. I'm here today again with, this is my second round. The first round, we lost all the audio, and luckily he was doing another interview that gave me the opportunity to talk to him. He is the author of The Democrats, How Democrats Can Win Back Men. Again, the title is How Democrats Can Win Back Men. Senor Mark W. Sutton, how can Democrats win back men?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, the Democratic Party, first of all, I think the most important thing to acknowledge, in fact, that they have been losing among men. So if you look at the presidential elections for the last 50 years, Democrats have been becoming more of the women's party, and the Republicans have been doing much better with men. So we've got to win those men back. So that's the first thing to acknowledge. There is something that we have to win back. And there's two reasons we need to do this. One, because it'll help us win. And number two, because it's the right thing to do morally. Because a lot of our men and boys, and I'm talking about all men and boys of all races, all ages, ability levels, sexualities, everything, the whole rainbow of all men, we're seeing lower outcomes. We're seeing them doing bad in education. Men's life expectancy is now 5.9 years less than women.
You know, you just said something there. You just said about they're doing much worse. It's interesting that the other day I was hearing about affirmative action for men because, as it turns out, there are more women going to colleges now. Women seem to be doing a whole lot more. I just wanted to kind of interject that.
Well, that's interesting thing about universities. Men are doing so badly in school, boys and men, that now universities, even doing affirmative action in the favor of boys to get accepted to university, our universities are 60% female, 40% male.
Right.
Even with the help that we're trying to help the boys,
right.
They're still trailing by that much. But I think if the Democrats can focus on men's issues that fall right in line with Democratic Party principles, while still supporting women and girls, and I really want to emphasize that because it's so important. I still, and my ideas in my book, are still supporting women and girls, but we need to do a better job of appealing to the male voting bloc, because historically, when Democrats have lost the male vote by more than 8%, they have lost every single time. This has happened for the last 50 years. Every single time they've been at minus 8% or above among men, they have won. So as long as they can just do okay with men, just not that bad among men, we're doing great with women and girls. We're doing great with the women voters. Keep that up. Do everything you're doing with the women voters. Just throw us a bone. I like to say, come on, Joe, throw us a bone. I mean, we just need let's get a men's health office. Because to help men with mental health is another big issue for men. Men are committing about 78% of the suicides in this country. Now, I don't want anyone to commit suicide. I think it's always sad. And if you're a family member of someone who has been through that or even attempted that, you know how sad that is. And at that moment, you don't care about gender or statistics or politics. You just care about your loved one. But as policymakers and as the Democratic Party, we really need to look at these things that are affecting men worse. Look at the prison industrial complex. I think most Democrats agree.
I think they said they're not hearing you very well.
Oh, okay. Let me change this. How about that? If I just hold it, is that okay?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Better.
I'll just hold. Sorry. So, as I was saying, the Democratic Party just needs to do a better job of messaging to male voters. And I think, some of the issues that everyone in the Democratic Party feels very strongly about, they line up well with helping the well-being of men. So we're just talking about the prison industrial complex. Now there's also, there's 93% of the people in prison, unfortunately, are male. Now there's other factors as well, racial inequities.
Right.
There are way too many black men in prison proportionally compared to white men, but there's still way more proportional white men in prison than women of color. So there's still a lot of men in prison, and if we can work on the prison industrial complex, I believe that is a male gender issue, and it's okay to say so. There's nothing wrong with that. And no, I think it'll help get male votes. Yeah.
The Democratic Party is always considered the party of an identity. People always say we have so many identities.
Yes.
It's confusing and that, and sort of a lot of men would say they get left holding the stick. And I think, in effect, you are saying that, but not in the negative way, in that if everyone who vote you're looking for need to be cared for.
Exactly.
In other words, it's not that you're asking that other identities not be cared for, but in the process, not because we are a patriarchal society, which we are, that doesn't mean that all men form part of that patriarchy.
Right. Just because all presidents have been men doesn't mean all men have power or that all men's issues have been addressed. That's exactly right. And I just really hope that people get that message, and I'm glad you appreciate that. It's a positive message. I call it the all-demographic strategy. Mm-hmm. So Howard Dean, if you remember him, he had the 50-state strategy.
Right.
Let's go after, we're going to support our Democrats no matter where they are. If they're in Alabama or Mississippi, states that are not likely to vote Democrat, they still supported the people. We still need to do that exact same thing, but instead of geographically, demographically.
Right.
We need to support everyone. So anyone walking in the room should say, hey, the Democrats support me because of who I am. That's great. They listen to my issues, they listen to my problems. If the Democrats can just get a few percentage of those moderate male voters who are on the fence, or maybe very lightly Democrat or very lightly Republican, those people in the middle, let's get a few percentage by just appealing to men. And it's okay to say the word men and boys in the Democratic Party platform, in the speeches to the public. It's okay to say, hey men, you're hurting right now. You're dying 5.9 years earlier. You're having deaths of despair, suicide, opioid overdose, alcoholic liver disease. All these things are affecting you. We want to know that we're here for you too. We're here for you too, and we want your vote, and we're going to work with you. We're going to create an Office of Men's Health and Well-Being. There was a bill created for that, so it's not. I'm not the first person to suggest this. There was the late congressman from New Jersey, Representative Payne, and then sadly he died at the age of 65 this spring. But he was the one advocating for this Office of Men's Health, and I think we should carry on his legacy and do that. I don't think that diminishes anyone else by supporting male health.
I think I'm sufficiently convinced that we put resources where we find problems. And if we find that there's an increase in suicide in men, if we find that that men are more violent, if we find all those things, it is incumbent on us to invest the resources to mitigate that particular problem.
Yeah.
Likewise, women have distinct problems of
Absolutely.
the way society treats women in general. We should have, that's why we have affirmative action, that's why we have DEI and all these other things. All of it is necessary. What the problem that many have is, just as you are, you present the very strong points that we need to take care of men, absolutely so. But in the same process, we need to make sure that all folks that are not being cared for their particular identity, demographic, or whatever, that is handled.
Absolutely, and you know, I 100% agree with that. Again, that's why I call it the all demographic strategy. If you look at the 2020 Democratic Party platform, men's and boys issues, they're just not mentioned. They just don't bring them up. If you read between the lines, you can say, oh, they seem to care about opioid overdose. Well, that's good. And again, I don't want anyone to die of an opioid overdose. But the fact is, it's about 75% of the people who are dying of opioid overdose are male.
Right.
So, and there's actually been studies that prove there's something about the male brain that make us more susceptible to opioid overdose than women. So there's even a biological reason that men are doing it. It's not just social, it's a combination of social and biological, but there's actually biological things about the male body that make us more susceptible to overdose. I don't think there's anything wrong with just acknowledging publicly available data.
No, well, no,
right?
I think, again, the issues, and I think earlier in with the interview that we did before I lost the audio, you made a very important statement, and it had to do with progressives. You said, I hope progressives will open their minds. And I told you, being a progressive means you have an open mind. So those progressives that you're addressing to without an open mind, that would take offense to you saying we ought to look out for, I mean, let me give let's put a little bit more stuff into this.
Okay.
That is to say, you're a white guy. Are there something specific that affect white guys? Because you are a white guy who is the power structure in America, does that mean that we shouldn't support the ills that affect? No, I think in effect we have to look at the totality of whoever has an issue that needs caring for us to care of. And in the process of doing that, we would also knock out patriarchy, or white supremacy, or all these other ills that society suffers from.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. If we help everyone, everyone's going to be better off.
There you go.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And, you know, I just think it's really important to understand the facts and the data on the ground as far as voting goes. So, you know, there's the moral reason, which we've been talking about, the moral reason to help everyone.
Right.
There's also the strategic reason. If the Democrats do not get enough votes from men, they will lose.
Well, that is a statement of fact.
And right now, they're getting crushed among men by the Republicans. I don't like the Republican messaging, and let me make this clear. I don't agree with a lot of their messaging. However, two of the Republican senators wrote major pieces of work that directly addressed men, and at least focused on what they believe to be male gender issues. Now, you might not agree with, it was Senator Josh Hawley and Senator Marco Rubio. Senator Josh Hawley wrote a book about masculinity. Senator Marco Rubio issued a report on the status of men. And I think there's some good things in there, some things I don't agree with. Let me make that clear.
Right.
But at least they addressed men. Where's President Biden's report to men?
You know
Nothing. It doesn't
what
exist.
is interesting with the way Republicans do things? They always mix a measure of truth. That just a timeout.
Okay.
They always put some elements of truth surrounded by misinformation, lies, and disguises. And that's what makes their messaging effective, by tying a little bit of truth with the rest, and that's what you get. But I mean, you know what? I tell you what, I'm glad that you wrote this book. Folks, the name of the book is How Democrats Can Win Back Men. And I know when my brother here, Mark Sutton, says that we need to look out for men too, I know a whole lot of progressive, the initial jolt is, well, men have been dominant anywhere, now it's time to look after everybody else. there are two answers that I give to that, and I pay homage to the brother here that says, yeah, for those men that are having issues, we should look into. And for the people listening, remember, you do have sons, you do have fathers, you do have brothers, and you love them just as much as they love you. So, I mean, I think taking notice of this makes sense in the proper context.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's what I ask people to do. Think of somebody in your life, a father, a brother, a child, a coworker, a colleague, a friend.
Right.
Everyone, we're all interconnected, and helping all of us just supports everyone.
Mark W. Sutton.
Yes.
Author of How Democrats Can Win Back Men.
Available on Amazon. Thank you.
He wants me to say available on Amazon. And you can take the snapshot of the card that he has here.
All right.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Have a great day. Anyway, that was, I enjoyed speaking to him. I mean, he made a whole lot of good points. Yep, there is a special counsel Jack Smith filed superseding indictment in federal January 6th case. I have to go study exactly what that means. This came while I was finishing prepare for the show, so I didn't get a chance to take a look at it in detail. All right, let's go to Mondale Robinson, who is the mayor of Enfeild, North Carolina. He's a longtime friend of mine that I talk to every year at Netroots. I think you're going to like this interview, but let me just say, for the fallacy that Donald Trump's going to get the black men's vote, I don't think so. Check this out. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. Today, I'm here with a regular that I meet yearly at Netroots. It's the one and only Mondale Robinson.
What's
How
up,
you
young
doing,
man? How you
Mondale?
doing?
Nice to see you. You know what?
What's that?
Let's give you the right title, because over the years, you've now become the mayor of
Enfeild, North Carolina.
And let me tell you, folks, this guy goes out to this community and he really turned it around. Let's talk a little bit about that, first of all. Tell me why it is that we must get into politics and actually be not just politicians, but do what we're supposed to do. Help the people. Tell us what you did out there.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I went back to this community because it's my home community.
Oh, I didn't know it was your home community.
So Enfeild is my hometown. I was out here doing all of this change and political work for the rest of the world.
Right.
And all of it brought me back home, because what was happening was we had a carpetbagger move into town and start to gentrify my hometown and push out some of the poorest black people in America to places where they wouldn't have access to resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I came home to address that. Ran a campaign that was for the people, by the people. I know that sounds cliche in this climate, but it was really true. So much so that I ran 0 ads, 0 billboards, did 0 mail, but I beat an incumbent by 53 percentage points.
Imagine that, huh?
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And that was just engaging people that people just took for granted.
That's all.
They never, they're going to vote this way. They ain't going to vote at all.
Exactly.
And you did that. Now, you also, so there's some issues that I recall about real estate in that area. Tell us a little bit about that.
So what's going on is we have, besides of gentrification and people driving up the prices, there's some dynamics about Enfeild you should know.
Right.
Enfeild is the 8th poorest town in America. 8th. It is only 7 towns.
Thousands of towns.
Yeah.
8.
Hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of towns. Enfeild is the 8th poorest. And in North Carolina, it is the poorest. It is also one of the blackest towns in America. It's 97% black.
Uh-huh.
And the average income for a household, not an individual, a household is $22,000.
Oh my God.
So we had somebody coming in, building up houses for $300,000. So I wanted to stop that, not trying to prevent anybody from doing business, but make sure that my people that were living off minimum wage, if that, had an opportunity to get into the middle class by home ownership. So I found a builder, I found a bank that's willing to give loans to people with no credit, little credit, or bad credit. And also the builder that was willing to build houses for $125,000. We're talking about smart homes, beautiful homes. So now people that were never going to have an opportunity to be a part of America's home ownership, what people call the American dream, now are realizing that right now within less than 2-3 years of me being mayor.
So a politician comes into town, one of the sons of the town, and he actually did what was necessary to help the people. Whatever happened to that around the country, brother?
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't these guys... we see the opposite happening from these politicians right now.
Well, what happened is people fell in love with money more than they did their neighbors.
Right.
People fell in love with the interest to continue to stay in power. longer than they did about doing good for folks. So for me, I don't care if I'm unelected and never elected again in the next term.
Right.
I know what I came to do, and I did just that. And I leave the office better because of what I've done for folk than I did when I came
Well,
in.
they will never forget that. I mean, no, did they try to sue you out and do all that kind of stuff?
Well, they trying to kill me.
Yeah, well, we know that too.
Because I took down a Confederate monument.
Right.
So
that's it. That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yes.
You had the gall to do that, didn't you?
I had the audacity.
You had the audacity to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a monument that had been standing in Enfeild since 1923.
Right.
An ode to the Confederate, 10-foot tall marble statue with a beautiful poem on it to Confederacy. And I wanted to get rid of it, not just because of me, but because our town voted on it. And also it does epigenetic harm to black children to see a Confederate flag flying 10 feet tall in a town that is majority black.
97%,
97%, absolutely.
Well, look, you have another project that you work on as well. Right now, people are given these tales that somehow the black voter is going to be migrating towards Donald Trump, and especially guys like you. I mean,
yeah,
what the hell is that all about?
So yeah, I mean, that conversation really is not about the black voters. It's really about black men and black men only.
Right.
That conversation is about three things, if you really want to know, brother. Let me tell you those three things. The political structure, infrastructure, and also those who are in charge, lack of relationship with black men.
Right.
2, the invisibling of black men, right? By the entire political structure. And the last thing it's about is people not giving a damn truly about what black men are showing them through historical voting data.
Right.
So if you look at what black men have done over the last 4 election cycles, they're not moving to conservative ideas. They're not becoming more conservative. They're not supporting Trump because he's bombastic. Actually, the last election cycle and the one before that in 2020 shows that black men voted less for Trump in 2020 than they did in 2016. But it does not fit the national narrative of what people want to believe about this demographic.
You know why you're here? Because this is the narrative.
This is the narrative.
This is the narrative. In other words, we don't have to play with what they're talking about out there. This is a narrative.
Yeah.
So you have a group that you work with, that you formed actually, that you founded. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started Black Male Voter Project as a love letter and also an acknowledgement to black men to say that I see you. And although the political structure is dead set on invisibling you, it is our job to make sure that we understand that our vote is powerful if we use it in the way that it was designed, right? So Black Male Voter Project started in 2019 as a full organization out of me doing 20 years of political work and seeing people saying and acting in manners that was transactional and not beneficial to create or move black men in a way that we expanded the election and bring more of the brothers into the electoral fold.
Now, why is it so necessary for you to treat, let's say, black men different than Latino? Well, they probably need this structure in the Latino community as well than, let's say, white men, etc. What is it that makes this a necessary thing? For those who would say, well, you see, you're creating divisions by some sort of an identity definition. How do you explain that?
I don't explain it to, because people that think and see the world in that manner are being naive. Black people did not create identity. White people created identity. They created black and whiteness after the Bacon Rebellion to divide poor black people.
The Bacon Rebellion. I mean, a lot of people don't get that. So I stopped you there because you need to tell them about what was going to happen in Bacon Rebellion, because many of us are trying to unite to remind folks that, you know, we have more in common than not. And what the Bacon Rebellion did is use some of humanity's carnal way of being to create that separation after the powers got scared. Why don't you explain?
Yeah, so what happened in Bacon Rebellion was that we saw a bunch of poor people, poor white people and black people who were being exploited by the wealthy, the landowners, to extend their 7-year indentured servant contracts and also not pay them their wages. So they got together and they formed a coalition and they were going to take over government. They were going to, not like January 6th, they were going to take over government in a way that said, this shouldn't be the way. You guys can't exploit people because you own them, so to say. And what the powers that be did, they decided that we'll give white people a few rights that we won't give black people. We gave white people the right to marry, white people the right to own guns, and white people could never be indentured servants for life, whereas black people could. And then white people also could become citizenships. This was not a case for black people, and this is why we ended up with chattel slavery in the way that we did in this country.
And you know what I find that is what I'm happy about is we have somebody who now sees it and is working not just in black neighborhoods, but in Appalachia and all of those folks in the great name of the good old Reverend Barber, and he has realized with the Poor People's Campaign some of the work that you are doing within your movement. So, I mean, give me a quick closer as far as where do we go from here?
I mean, we did not listen at Black Male Voter Project. Our hair is not on fire because a presidential candidate had a bad debate. Our hair is not on fire because white people are nervous about their democracy.
Right.
Our hair is on fire because we continue to exclude Black men from the political process. And until we put out that fire, we'll always have these fake fires around what white people are fighting about.
Mondale Robinson.
Mondale.
I mean, what am I? Mondale Robinson.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for this interview, my brother.
Indeed. Peace.
Mondale, we go back a long time. He's doing a hell of a lot of work. Yes, Lee Grant, I think you need to go ahead and learn when whiteness was created and for what reason whiteness was created. That wasn't a thing 400 years ago, you know. I know you don't know that. That's not what the right wing tries to preach. But again, Bacon's rebellions change a whole lot of things. It's how the wealthy, the plutocracy has always used these things to split people, to tear them apart, etc., etc., etc. But again, a lot of us want to remain in our domain. We shouldn't. We should move on. All right, the last one is from Robert Cramer. Another great interview that I have with this person. I want you to listen to this, and then let's go ahead and talk about it later on. Let's get busy right now. Welcome to another edition of Politics on Right. My name is Egberto Willis. Today we're honored to have Robert Cramer. Robert is the author of Nuts and Bolts, the Formula for Progressive Electoral Success. Welcome to Politics on Right.
Nice to be here.
Great to be with you. First of all, I think it's important. When you say nuts and bolts, tell me what you mean by nuts and bolts of.
I mean that the most important thing to success electorally is execution.
Right.
You know, and when Vince Lombardi, used to have this wonderful football team in Green Bay, the first of every season he would pick, and you're great players, right? He'd pick up the ball and say, gentlemen, this is a football. We're going to talk about blocking and tackling, and that's what the book is about. It argues that execution is the most important thing we have to do. And in this election, let me tell you, it's turning out our vote that is the most important thing.
We've been talking to people all over, and the question is, it seems like we have an apathetic voting bloc. And I think we're going to need the nuts and bolts to really get to them and show them the importance of why voting now is so important. So what can your book, Nuts and Bolts, the Formula for Progressive Electoral Success, what can you show them in that book that we are not doing right now?
Well, this book talks about the principles of great political communication.
Right.
And how we can engage people's self-interest.
Right.
We have to talk about their fundamental self-interest. And in terms of actual getting the vote out, it talks about a number of get out the vote messages that are very powerful. But the most important one is I won't get off your porch until you vote. Or off your phone. I mean, we need to be talking to people.
Right.
Not just texting them, although texting is important.
Right.
Not just we got to have real human relationships.
Flesh to flesh contact.
And building armies of volunteers, because the most important way to get people committed to something is to put them in motion.
Right.
If somebody cheers for a candidate, they're much more likely to be committed to them.
Right.
You spend an hour talking to them, that way it's important.
Right.
If you put them in action, going door to door, or having events, or whatever, we have to organize in order to win. And if we do, we will.
I think that is one of the problems that a lot of today's politicians don't realize. They think they can throw up a Facebook ad or throw an ad on TV and everything is okay. And most of what they do, since that's all they're doing, what they want to do is demonize the other side in order for that person to look at the vote as their only option. Unfortunately, what that means is when the other side look at the other option, they may just say, you know what, might as well just stay home.
Yeah, right. And that, I mean, in this election,
right.
Of course, we have to be very clear that this is about just a fundamentally path-finding election for the country.
Right.
We're on the knife's edge of either trending toward fascism, or we could have the trifecta with the Senate, House, and Presidency.
Yes.
Next year could be the most progressive period in modern American history.
That is what, it's amazing. When you say it, we are on a razor's edge. In other words, this election can flip in either direction. And the funny thing about it is, I think it should be flipping in a landslide fashion, given that, in my opinion, and you tell me what your thoughts are, I think the Republican Party, with the gravity of what they've done over the last several years, have just about donated the election to Democrats if they really want to follow the path.
That's right. If we get our vote out, you are correct. I mean, one of the key things that this book talks about is that it is much easier to mobilize people around things people are trying to take away from you,
right,
than around things to which you aspire. So that, for instance, Trump reached out from the political grave,
right,
and took women's freedom of reproductive choice away,
right,
and that is a huge issue in this coming election, and it will mobilize a lot of people. But we got to focus on this fundamental choice. It's not just about two candidates here,
right?
Although
it's about two separate sets of policies.
It's not just policies, even. It's about freedom or authoritarianism. It's about,
right.
This is really in my lifetime, this is the most fundamental election I recall, and I'm an old guy.
Well, you're not that old. You're not that old, but but still, it's important that we do it, and I'm glad that you spent the time to write a book, because we need your book. And we need the book of others that with different perspectives to come out and just say, we are going to get the vote out, and we are going to make sure to have an educated populace.
And the other thing we have to convince people of, very important, is that we can win.
Right.
And we can win and make real change in a country. I mean, we have to, because if you can't get them to hope, you can't get them to vote.
Say that again.
Can't get them to hope, you can't get them to vote.
There you go. I think that is so important. Let me ask you to give us a closer.
Well, I would just say, if we organize, we win.
I love that. If we organize, we win.
That's right.
If we organize, we win. Robert B. Cramer, author of Nuts and Bolts, the formula for progressive electoral success. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely join. Have you guys ever wondered about how much the Republican Party, I should say how much the MAGA Party has really fallen in love with Joe Biden? Have you all noticed that? They love them some Joe Biden. They are so protective of Joe Biden. They think Joe Biden was wronged. They think Joe Biden was thrown out, and by gosh, they want to fight for they want to protect Joe Biden, and they want to make sure that Joe Biden isn't ill-treated. Oh my God, how could Democrats treat Joe Biden like that? Sad. Sad. You guys are comical. You guys wanted Joe Biden so you could beat the crap out of Joe Biden. And now that we understand and we come to terms with Joe Biden and say, Joe, we don't think you can carry on the battle that it's going to take. Uh, would you consider passing the torch? And he goes home and he says, you know what? I really want to be president. I want to finish the job, even though I said several years ago that I wanted to only serve one term. But you get to the job and you think, but my body is old. Yes, I'm an old man. And I can't keep up. I can't do what Kamala is doing, going from state to state, several states in one day, talking loud, being fast in return with a treasonous thug like Trump. Got to find a way to do it. I can't do that, but you can, Kamala. I picked you because you know what? Ultimately, I knew you could. And she can. And she will. And what has MAGA so upset is not that they are talking about anti-democracy against Biden, because Biden came through. It's that they are going to get the crap beaten out of them from this woman whose level of intellect is orders of magnitude that of the dummy they continue to follow. That's it. That's it. We've got to realize what the reality is. You guys chose to pick a treasonous, rapist, xenophobic, sexist, misogynist thug. That's who you guys chose to represent you. You guys chose the rapist. Many of you have daughters. You are telling your daughters it is okay, that a rapist is okay. You are telling your daughter, I will go ahead and elect a rapist to run this country and in that much of the world. You're telling your daughter she has little value, but you don't have a problem with that. Don't you think there's something sick in the mind there? Don't you think there's something sick that you are telling your daughter it is okay that a rapist will become no, I'm not opening myself to the lawsuit. A judge has said what Trump did was rape. Okay? It's that simple. And don't try to overthink it and compare it to Clinton. There's no comparison here. Monica Lewinsky, even though Clinton should not have worked with her, Monica Lewinsky was on a mission. He shouldn't have fallen for it. But Monica Lewinsky, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying Monica Lewinsky was on a mission. He should have been man enough to say, nah, girl, hold it. He didn't force himself onto Monica. Monica never said Clinton forced herself on him. But you know who did? Donald Trump did. Donald Trump said the woman, he forced himself not on one woman, not on two women, on several women. And you listen to him talk. But all of y'all are going to have to live with yourself. When your daughter later on tells you, Daddy, they're not going to say anything right now. But as they grow up and they remember the MAGA time, because you guys are going to regret this MAGA time. You guys are going to regret that you, as your standard bearer, you had somebody like that. You have no morality, zero moral values to put onto your kids going forward. You have given that up. Your vote for Donald Trump has given that up. And for the church, the evangelical church that supports Donald Trump, even worse. They have given up their moral authority. And their decline will continue. Alistair Waters says, and Clinton didn't use campaign funds to shut up individuals. Very true. So let's be clear here. You all have to live with your choice. You all have to live with having chosen a rapist thug. and being able to look into the eyes of your kids and say that was the right vote. Your kids will never, let me tell you, and I'm telling you, my daughter is 30 something years old, and my daughter really loves the moral values I've instilled in her. They will always look at you. No matter what happens today, you will always have lost the respect of your kid having voted for Donald Trump. You will lose the respect of your daughters and your son. Don't ever think you can tell them anything of any moral value going forward. All right, I got to get out of here. Folks, I want to thank you all so kindly for listening to my show. I want to ask, not my show, our show. I want to ask you all to become a part of our family. Please go ahead and support us by subscribing to our newsletter. You can get to our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please become a paid supporter. A paid, you can get it free, but I'm asking you kindly to become a paid supporter of our newsletter. And let me tell you what that gives you. And let me put that onto the screen right now. Egberto.substack. Let me go ahead and give you a synopsis of what that does. If you become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, you have access to all my books. All of my books. You can go ahead and it's not only all of my books that I have out now, but all of my books that I write subsequently. As long as you're a subscriber to my newsletter, you can read all my books online. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors, and Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. And there's another book that I'm going to add in there that I haven't placed yet, and that is my weight loss book. I've lost 15 pounds in the last couple of months. Here is the deal. Support when you support our newsletter, what you're doing is you're ensuring that we can continue doing this and continue doing it well. I work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I love it. I'm not complaining. I love it. It's not fiscally the right thing, but I love doing something positive as we do here. So I'm asking you so kindly today to please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. Also, we're going to add other things for people who are paid subscribers, sort of to give you an incentive to become a paid subscriber. And it's only a coffee a month, guys. It's only a coffee a month. If I can get to I'd like to reach 1,000. I'm at probably like 150 something right now. I need to get to about 1,500 minimum. I'd like to get to 2,000 so that I can get some help in doing all the work that to do. 16 hours is hard, and it's really, really hard, and it takes away on quite a bit. But I love it because we are serving. So please consider becoming a subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And you can make a difference. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. Love you all. Thank you so kindly. You know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EG BERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.